Hi, my name is LEAPATON, and welcome to Boxing Career Retrospectives, where in this first installment we'll be looking at the career of Evander Holyfield. This is part one, from which will cover 1975 to 1989. Everything that you'll see here is from newspapers.com, where I have a subscription. It's an amazing resource. Newspapers.com, I highly recommend it. Let's get right to it, and so you'll get an idea of what to expect. So the first time Holyfield shows up in the Atlanta Constitution, which we will be relying on heavily throughout this first installment especially. He shows up for the first time in May of 1975. And he unfortunately loses a decision in this semifinals as a child. Then in 76, wins a decision. And May of 76 was the 105-pound champion at Atlanta's Warren Memorial Boys Club, 105-pound champion, who would then go on to win the heavyweight championship. And here's the very first picture from December 23rd, 1976. And there's Holyfield in the back, right there, at 76. So he would have been like 15 years old here, if I remember correctly, or 14. It's an amazing photo. This is the kind of stuff you'll find on newspapers.com. And then we go to November 3rd, 82. Holyfield is the defending open welterweight champion. Oh, and this is from June 26th, 83. Holyfield will meet Sherman Griffin of Minneapolis in a light heavyweight semifinal on Sunday. This is significant because he would have quite the amateur rivalry with Sherman Griffin, who was at the time thought of as like the best fighter around. And then we'll see June 27th, 83 in the Boston Globe. So the Associated Press. Evander Holyfield of Atlanta upset Sherman Griffin of Minneapolis in a light heavyweight bout. So Holyfield, this is where Holyfield makes a name for himself with this win. This makes him a big deal and on a national level. And it got quite a bit of attention because it was a major upset. Holyfield victorious in Festival. Evander Holyfield avenged an earlier loss by defeating Sherman Griffin in the semifinals of the National Sports Festival boxing competition in Colorado Springs. Holyfield became the second Atlantan to advance to Tuesday's finals. And then another name comes up. This is his other significant rivalry as an amateur. Holyfield 20 will meet Ricky Womack from Detroit in Tuesday night's final. Womack was the 1983 Golden Gloves champion and the 1982 U.S. Amateur champion in the heavyweight division. So this is another major star on the national level in the United States. He was thought of as the best around. And these are the two guys that Holyfield would feud with as an amateur. Holyfield won a gold medal at the National Sports Festival Tuesday night. Holyfield upset Ricky Womack of Detroit on a decision in the 178-pound class. They will again face Tuesday night's opponents. Okay, Grogan and Holyfield would qualify for the Pan Am Games with one victory, while their opponents would have to win 2 fights to qualify. So Holyfield scores another upset, this time over Ricky Womack. And now he's a major player. And this is from his hometown paper. They're just talking about these upsets that he's been pulling off lately, and he's now everybody knows who he is. But look at this photo of a young Holyfield. Here's some quotes. Okay, so Holyfield decision top rank Ricky Womack of Detroit and second ranked Sherman Griffin of Minnesota to win his first national amateur boxing title. This is Holyfield. The folks in Colorado were talking about upsets, but those guys just got beat. So he didn't think it was an upset. A week and a half before last week's bout, Holyfield thought he might not be able to compete because of a knee injury. I messed up a knee muscle in the ring one day as I was trying to step quick and parry. It was swollen up and I had to limp around on it, but the doctors repaired it and I was able to fight. Holyfield says here, a lot of guys used to pick on me. I could fight, but most of them had older brothers, and back then, if a guy had an older brother, you didn't mess with him. Holyfield took an interest in boxing and began training at the Warren Memorial Boys Club under the tutelage of coaches Ted Morgan, Willie Ross, and Raymond Wheeler. I was a superstar at the boys club in football, Holyfield said. I wanted to be a football player when I first got into high school at Fulton, but I was told that I didn't have the size and weight. My size and weight in the 10th grade, 5'4", and barely 80 pounds, made me stay in boxing. So he was too small for football. However, by the time Holyfield reached the 11th grade, he had grown to 5'9" and over 160 pounds. This is amazing considering what he did. The coaches wanted me to play, but I stayed with boxing because in the ring, it's just you and the other person, he said. A lot of boxers have no goals, Holyfield said. Some fight because if they were not, they would be doing something devilish. I do it as a sport and to get something out of life. Sometimes I wonder what I'm doing in the ring. I want to be out of boxing when I'm 28. So here's Holyfield, who fought for like 30 years or more, saying he wants to be out of boxing when he's 28. The older I get, the more I think about turning professional. I want to turn professional to make up for things I have to do without getting paid. Getting a chance to participate in the Olympics and win is important to Holyfield. The purpose of being the number one amateur who goes on to the pros is like being in college and getting a degree. If a fellow didn't have to go to college to get a good job, it wouldn't make sense to go. And then it talks about his job where he pumps gas at the Epps Air Service at the DeKalb Peachtree Airport. Despite being in boxing 11 years, Holyfield has not been scarred. He is sporting a cut on his right eyelid now, but his assailant was a bedpost rather than a pugilist. The bunk bed at training camp is not like the one I have at home. I was trying to get out of bed and hit my head. And this is from the Detroit Free Press. In the light heavyweight division, Kronk member from Detroit, Ricky Womack, will try to oust Evander Holyfield of Atlanta. Womack lost a close decision 3-2 to Holyfield at the Sports Festival, and experts predict another tight battle Saturday. Ricky underestimated Holyfield. He was looking for a quick knockout and it didn't come. It could be different this time. And then this guy agrees. He'll stop Holyfield the first day, said the coach. Then he won't even have to fight again on Sunday. This coach said Womack was tired at the sports festival. He had just fought the Cubans and over in the Orient. He just had too much training. So this was a major upset, and they see that it's probably going to go the other way this time. And this time he did get revenge. Womack, another Detroit fighter, fighting for Kronk, clubbed Evander Holyfield of Atlanta on Saturday. But Holyfield elected to fight Womack again on Sunday, and this time Holyfield dominated the light heavyweight bout. So he gets destroyed one day, comes back the next day, and beats him up. This is how intense amateur boxing was back in the day. And this was a huge win. Evander Holyfield of Atlanta earned a berth on the U.S. team in the Pan American Games with a 3-2 decision over welterweight Ricky Womack of Detroit. So now we're getting to international level. Here, in November 12th, 1983, he has to pull out of the event with a hand injury, and this is the U.S. Amateur Boxing Championships in Colorado Springs. So he's out with an injury at the worst time, really. And here you see three-time Olympic champion Teofilio Stevenson took a 3-round decision from Tyrell Biggs Saturday in leading the Cuban amateur team to an 8-4 victory over the U.S. club. America's Meldrick Taylor, like Biggs from Philadelphia, upset Adolfo Hortz, ranked number 1 in the 125-pound class with a 3-2 decision. Taylor, 17, matched the Cuban punch for punch in vicious exchanges. Now that sounds like Meldrick Taylor. And how about this? Pernell Whitaker, 132, from Norfolk, Virginia, decisioned Cuban 2-time gold medalist Angel Herrera in another 3-rounder. Evander Holyfield of Atlanta was a loser in the 178-pound class. So you can see mixed results for Holyfield, but he's competing at the highest level here and winning and losing as he goes. And this is from the Detroit Free Press from June 6th, 1984. The Olympic trials in boxing. Womack again is the opponent for Holyfield, who is the favorite in the 178-pound class. And you can see here, Mark Breland is here, Tyrell Biggs. Yeah. Familiar names. And here is the result from June 10th, 84. Womack used his aggressiveness to edge Evander Holyfield of Atlanta 3-2. Holyfield had outpointed Womack in the Pan Am Games trials and box off. Womack's final opponent will be Benny Hurd of Augusta, Georgia. So he loses here again to Womack. And this is from the Detroit Free Press again, June 10th, 84. Considered the best prospect in the 178-pound class, Womack defeated top challenger Evander Holyfield of Atlanta, Georgia, but not without a struggle. Womack in front of Holyfield from the opening bell stood toe-to-toe and engaged in a spirited exchange. Womack, behind on points, rallied in the third and scored a close split decision. Womack is paired in the finals with Benny Hurd. And he says of Holyfield, Holyfield is a strong, fast puncher. I was impressed with his speed, but his punches had no sting to them. The Atlanta Constitution again, June of 1984. Despite losing this decision, Holyfield may get a second chance to get on the Olympic team. Atlanta's Evander Holyfield might get a second chance in the Olympic boxing trials, as only 2 pairings for the next month's Olympic box off were set Sunday. Tyrell Biggs, the trials winner, will face runner-up Craig Payne in the super heavyweight division, while Pernell Whitaker, the 132-pound class winner, will face runner-up Joe Bellink. The box-off opponent for 178-pound champion Ricky Womack will either be runner-up Benny Hurd of Augusta or Holyfield. The rules call for a trials winner to fight a most noteworthy opponent in the box-off. If the trials champion wins, he is on the Olympic team. If he loses, there is another fight to decide who makes the team. So this rule gives Holyfield a chance. The box-off will be held on July 6th and possibly July 7th at Las Vegas, Nevada. In those classes where more than one most noteworthy opponent was chosen, they will go to the Olympic training camp at Colorado Springs, where it will be decided who meets the trials winner in the box-off. Okay, so Holyfield if he can win some fights or win a fight or two, he can still make the team. After completing an impressive and hard-fought 3-round light heavyweight bout against Ricky Womack in the semifinals of the recent Olympic boxing trials, Evander Holyfield of Atlanta felt he had easily outclassed his opponent. Indeed, Holyfield's performance against Womack had moved the fans in the Fort Worth, Texas arena to cheer his apparent victory. But as soon as Holyfield But as Holyfield was soon to find out, the fans do not count heavily in amateur boxing scoring. Judges do. And then Holyfield says, it's hard to beat the judges. I felt like I won the fight. I know I won the first and third rounds. And then he says the judges must have been watching another fight. I really pressured him and turned the fight completely around in the third round. Everybody knows I put a boxing lesson on him in the first round. The second round could have gone either way. With my style and Benny Hurd's style, I can beat him with my speed and punches. I should be able to beat him without a problem. The strategy against Womack, if it gets that far, will be quite different, Holyfield says. With Womack, I will have to keep him going backwards, Holyfield said. He can't fight going backwards. The only way he can fight is coming forward. I'm going to come to him all 3 rounds. I'm going to box him. I'll try not to fight him inside and have him backing up. When you're confident, you can make the fight go much easier. You can be much stronger than when you don't have confidence, he explained. I don't say anything to my opponents. I'm businesslike. When I get in the ring, I let it all happen. I try not to brag. I let the fans brag and I do the work. I rank myself number 1 because I beat all the guys I fought at least one time, with the exception of Cuban Pablo Romero, who beat him in the Pan Am Games. Womack is the world champion. He beat the Cubans, he beat the Russians, he beat everybody. But everybody saw Saturday at the Olympic trials that I whipped him. I should be the champion. I rank myself number 1 in the world. That's one of the goals of winning the gold medal, said Holyfield. That's like a degree in college because it means more money. He admitted that he will turn pro even if he doesn't make the Olympics. I'm in good shape and not too many people can beat me when I'm in good shape, he said. I'm in tip-top shape. Plus I'm in a must-win situation. Ain't no tomorrow. It all depends on what you do now, so I will fight even harder. So Hurd was out because he had hand surgery, and Womack's opponent at the box off will be Evander Holyfield. And Holyfield does make the team by defeating Womack with a 4-1 decision, which crushed the hopes of Womack, who was, in most people's opinion, destined to go to the Olympics. And a lot of people say he was never the same after that. Emanuel Stewart tried to comfort him by saying, you don't need an Olympic medal to be a great pro. But, it didn't. That was his dream, and Holyfield took it away from him. Holyfield ended up with a 4-2 record over Womack in their fierce rivalry. And here's Holyfield. In 1983, I was the underdog when they had the National Sports Festival in Colorado. 3 of the 4 fighters in my division had all been ranked number 1 in the world, and I beat them all. At that time, I wasn't really at my best. At my best, I could really beat those guys. It didn't make any difference who I had to fight to get to where I had to go. I just wanted to make the team and go where they go. And light heavyweight Evander Holyfield takes a rest from training. I never watch boxing at all. Not live, not on TV. I don't associate with boxing at all outside of the ring. My coach always told me that, or always told people that someday I would be going to the Olympics, he says. All I've had on my mind for the longest time was to be on the team. When I was 15 or 16 in high school, they wanted me to play football, but I told them I wanted to be a boxer. They said it would be better for me to play football and go to college, but I wanted to box. In the 11th grade, I lost 3 matches in a row, and that really disturbed me. I knew I would have to start training more seriously if I really wanted to go to the Olympics. Before long, I had improved so much, I figured I could beat anybody. And here's another picture of a young Holyfield from this era. Talking about international competition here. The first time they sent me to fight was against a Russian, he said. I knew I could outbox him because he comes straight at you. Other times I fought, it was a little tougher because some of them tried to intimidate me and make me lose my cool and make me stop using my boxing skills. Holyfield says his toughest opponent has probably been Womack. We really don't associate much with each other, says Holyfield. The only real difference of opinion we have is his attitude toward who he thinks he is, and my attitude toward who I think I am. I'm not going to say we're the best of friends, because we're not, but we've never talked bad about each other. And this is from the Boston Globe, where they're previewing the Olympics. And remember, this is the Olympics where there were no Cubans and no Russians. As you see here, among the missing, from Cuba, Pablo Romero, who was another guy Holyfield had a lot of problems with. And then the USSR. And Holyfield is seen as a likely gold medal winner here. Holyfield whipped world champion Ricky Womack twice at the box office and looks better every time out. And then they say with the Cuban and the Russian sitting home, he should have few problems here. And here's a picture from the Olympics, from the New York Daily News, August 9th, 1984. And then here's where he famously got disqualified for hitting on the break. Holyfield disqualified from the boxing, from being able to earn a gold medal. So Holyfield, seemingly on his way to an easy semifinal win over Kevin Barry of New Zealand Thursday night, was disqualified from the Olympic boxing competition for knocking down Barry after the referee had called stop. And this is the huge controversy because it was right on the line, and Holyfield was already beating Barry. It was a huge controversy. The United States immediately filed a protest over the ruling, and a hearing is scheduled for 5 p.m. Friday. Right now, I'd say it's 50-50 we will win the protest, Loring Baker president of the U.S. Boxing Federation, said early Friday morning. So there was some hope. Here Holyfield saying, I'm very upset, and I didn't hear him say stop until it was too late. Unfortunately, that decision was not turned around. I didn't hear him say break, says Holyfield. I knew somebody was going to get a raw deal down the line, Holyfield said. I never thought it would be me. And they protested it, but since Barry was counted out with a head blow, Federation rules do not allow him to fight for 28 days, which means that a Yugoslav fighter will win the gold medal by a walkover created by a Yugoslav referee. And the president, Donald Hall, an American, said that the 5-man protest committee would look at films of last night and make a recommendation to him this afternoon as to whether the decision should be overturned. He says, it seems he, Holyfield, did strike a blow after the referee told him to stop. Films will confirm whether or not that happened. The New Zealand boxer was holding Holyfield by the neck and hitting him at the same time, said Loring Baker. He had already been warned twice in the round for infractions. So they're trying to get it turned around, but it didn't end up going that way. And this is from the Atlanta paper. Holyfield deserves better. He's complaining about the apparent corruption. And then this is again Don Hull, the American who is the president of International Amateur Boxing Federation. I am more disappointed and have more sympathy for Evander than I am angry at the decision. So Holyfield didn't get the gold medal, but many of the Americans on his team did, like Whitaker, Meldrick Taylor, and the like. Yeah. And Biggs. Holyfield says here, the guy kept holding me, said Holyfield. He said I won the fight fair and square and he thought I hit him on the break. This is from Barry, apparently. Holyfield reiterated that he did not hear the stop order. We were both still swinging. I didn't know it was a break. It's very disappointing. I'm very upset. I came here to win a gold medal. When light heavyweight boxing bronze medalist Holyfield returns to his job at Epps Air Service, he will be treated to a championship celebration by his co-workers and friends, according to Lee Odom. Everybody has an excuse when you lose, Holyfield said. But when you don't have to make up an excuse, it's easier. When everybody else says, they robbed you, they took away your fight, it's much easier than saying, I won the bronze, but they ripped me off. And here they're talking about a TV event that will happen with Tyrell Biggs, Mark Breland, Pernell Whitaker, Jerry Page, with all these gold medalists and medalists, it's all going to be on one TV event, and they're just shopping it around right now. Holyfield plans first pro bout on November 15th. This is from 1984. Atlanta's Evander Holyfield, Olympic bronze medalist, and gold medalist Mark Breland and Pernell Whitaker have agreed to professional boxing contracts and will make their debuts together November 15th, the fighters said Monday night. A site and opponents for the fight have not been determined. Main Events, a New Jersey-based promoter, said it had signed Whitaker, and Breland and Holyfield said that he would sign on Tuesday. Holyfield receives deal of $1 million plus 5 TV fights. And this is with the Duvas of Main Events, who got contracts with a lot of those guys. Holyfield said that the Main Event's contract was similar financially to other promoters' offers, but the main selling point was Main Event's agreement with ABC that 5 of Holyfield's fight will be nationally televised, the first during prime time. You couldn't really put a figure on the exposure, Holyfield said. It guarantees I would get a championship fight if I win. Some guys win, but they never get a chance at the title. In this deal, if I win, I would get a chance to fight no matter what. And Holyfield hopes to fight for the title, either the light heavyweight or heavyweight, within 2.5 years. I can't stop until I get one of them, Holyfield said, adding that not getting the gold medal will make him push harder. Holyfield will train in Atlanta until mid-October. Then he will spend the month prior to his first fight training in upstate New York. Duva said he tentatively plans to have Holyfield train with George Benton, who trained Leon Spinks when Spinks defeated Muhammad Ali. And George Benton would go on to be, the former fighter, would go on to be Holyfield's trainer for a lot of his career. And Holyfield's talking about getting over the fact that he didn't win a gold medal. And he's saying it makes it a little easier to have all his buddies on the same card. It makes it easier, said Holyfield. All the spotlight's not on you. All the other guys are good, so the tension's not just on you. And Holyfield, here's Benton talking about Holyfield in 84, November 15th, 84. He's looking very good, surprisingly good, Benton said. I thought he might be pretty slow to catch on to some things I've been teaching him, like slipping and sliding and catching punches. But this guy is the type of guy who fools people with his movement, and he's got a good boxing mind. At first his conditioning wasn't too good. He couldn't go past 3 rounds. His gas was bad. He was burning cheap gas, baby. When I tried to send him past 6 rounds the first time, he was about to cry. Now he's fine. He reminds me of Joe Louis in a sense. When you ask him anything point blank, he shortens everything you say to a point. Short and to the point. Just like Holyfield hopes Thursday night will be. Holyfield says he's not anxious or nervous yet. I'm looking forward to getting that first fight over. After I made the Olympic team, I could see everything ahead of me. I had lost in the Olympic trials, and that put me back in the dark ages of my mind. I had to beat Ricky Womack twice to make to make the team, and hardly anyone can do that, but I did. And having a good performance in the Olympics, I knew I could make big bucks after that. It's a dream come true. And he fights Lionel Byarm, who he says he comes forward all the time. He's pretty strong. I'm not making any predictions. I'm just looking to win. I'll fight my fight, not his fight, and hope to get him doing things that he's not used to doing. I just don't want to be over anxious. I have to be patient. I hope to be rated in the top 10 going into my second year. Then I want to start fighting top 10 opponents and later in the second year get a title fight. So he wants to rush to the title as fast as possible. And Holyfield passes his first test. And of the victory, he said, I hit him with everything I had on the chin, to the body, everywhere. I'm not disappointed I didn't knock him out, because he's a veteran and he's got good defense. I can't get down on myself. It's my first time fighting 6 rounds, and it's not like they're feeding me guys who can't fight. It's good. It pushes me harder. And they're talking about him hooking up with Ken Sanders, who is his manager. And he gets a warm-up fight here. Oh, this is actually right before the fight with Kawi. So he's starting to get into contention, and this was supposed to be a warm-up fight with Eddie Mustafa Muhammad, who was the former light heavyweight champion, a very tough guy, a great fighter, great skills, wily veteran, could really do it all. Not someone you'd want to put your young fighter in with, for sure. But they were confident in Holyfield that he could take on Eddie Mustafa Muhammad, and then fight Dwight Muhammad Kawi, who is the cruiserweight champ, and Leon Spinks. These are the types of people he was looking for. This fight did not happen, and it could never be worked out. I think Mustafa said he had an injury. Yeah, so we could not have taken it, Sanders says. If he loses, he probably won't get the championship fight, but we don't think he'll lose. Holyfield agreed to the fight because he will earn $75,000 and the bout will be televised on ABC. So Holyfield's looking for this fight, and so is his management because of the money and the TV. But I don't know why they would take this fight. Holyfield says here, my first reaction was, what? Eddie Mustafa Muhammad? Or Eddie Mustafa, this guy's been, he's been a top pro for a long time. This guy's been a champion. I thought they would give me some no-name guy I can really cruise through. I knew this would be a tough fight, but a good experience. And Holyfield says, I'm about 8 months ahead of schedule and moving rapidly. It's another fight to keep me razor sharp. One thing is, he's a tough opponent. I've got to be careful. I have to have my act together. But again, this fight never happened. But when I came across it, I remember thinking, I've never heard about that one. Atlanta Constitution in 86. I still get scared every time you go into that ring, she says. This is his teacher talking to him. I don't want you to get hurt. I still think you're our little Evander. It's the principal and teacher that is Fulton High School. And they're talking about Holyfield's life between training. I don't do anything, he says. My body really needs the rest. When you get to training camp, you wish you rested for many days. And it says here, 2-year-old Evander Jr. is at the kiddie college. 9-month-old Ashley, bouncing on the lap of her mother, Paulette, stares at a video image of herself being serenaded by her father as he rocked her in a baby carrier. Holyfield laughs as he forwards the videotape entitled Family. This is young Holyfield. And they're checking out an old videotape where he's goofing around. And here's where Holyfield's manager has a car dealership, and he's talking about how his manager is a used car dealer, or actually not a used car dealer, he just is a car dealer. And Holyfield himself would get into this business later. He said, people think car dealership people are crooked, he says. And I've had a lot of people tell me he's trying to beat me out of my money, by him being white and my being black. A black person will beat you the same as a white person if you let them. But Ken was sincere about everything. Other people came up to me offering me $50,000 in cash and everything like that. By me never having been around big money like that, I probably would have jumped in and cashed in on 50 grand. But Ken made sure that I got a good deal, a $1 million contract over a 4-year period of time. A day in Atlanta never goes by without Holyfield visiting Sanders' business on Jonesboro Road. Holyfield parks his car in the designated parking space and walks inside the office. A group of salesmen acknowledges entrance with a nod and a simple hello. Holyfield steps into his own office, decorated by plaques and newspaper articles and a photograph of him with the Reagans. He also sells cars and hopes to own his own dealership, and Sanders intends for him to reach that goal next year when they buy one together. And listen to this quote. A boxing career is only going to last about 6 years, says Holyfield. I want to go to a car dealership school and Atlanta Junior College and get a degree in business. You can't pay for experience. How can I tell someone they're not doing their job right when you don't know how to do it yourself? So Holyfield is saying here, a boxing career is only going to last about 6 years. And now we're talking about getting into the Cowie fight, which is his very first world title fight against Dwight Muhammad Cowie, who is the former Dwight Braxton, who had some amazing wars and was an incredible pressure fighter, a stocky, short pressure fighter who just always came at you. You can check out some of his fights, like I would suggest checking out his beatdown of Matthew Saad Muhammad, for instance. So Holyfield has like 11 fights at this time, and he's going up against a hardcore pressure fighter veteran. Here's Sanders, his manager. He doesn't have to fight this guy, but he tells me that he can win and that he wants to go for the big one right off the bat. I ask him if he's sure. He says yes, and I believe him. So everybody acknowledges that Cowie is the best fighter in the cruiserweight division right now, and the most well known. He's talking about his teachers who can't stand to watch him fight. And here he is making an appearance at his high school. And here we're hanging out outside where he used to live. Holyfield points to a dirty green apartment door partially hidden by a burnt out truck with shattered windows. Number 86, he says, that's where I used to live. The place didn't look so run down when I was growing up. It didn't even look like government housing back then. This area is rough now. A station wagon fits Holyfield's lifestyle more. He's not into these other cars. His first house, he said, will be in College Park. He is not a big spender. He says, I don't have an ego trip. I believe I can get anything I want. But I always like to be on the safe side. Holyfield considers going to an aerobics class, but apparently talks himself out of it. He is feeling lazy, and he misses his wife and kids. His next fight, the big one, is still 6 weeks away. It's Cowie over by KO over Holyfield in the Battle of Words. And Cowie is saying, you've been watching too many Sonny Liston tapes. That stare you got isn't going to get it. Isn't going to get it. Just make sure you show up. You shouldn't even be in the ring with me. Who are you anyway? Evander Holyfield, came the reply. No, you're not. You're Holyfield, Cowie argued, purposely mispronouncing the last name. And then Holyfield shrugged off Thursday's incident. Nothing he does surprises me. He wasn't trying to say I was a baby. I know he will try to do something to do anything to intimidate me, but I won't let myself get aroused or react to all that stuff. I'll let my trainer handle it. Holyfield, when asked how far off he was from the 190-pound cruiserweight limit, Cowie responded sharply, I can't be more than 198. I haven't jumped on the scale. Put down 240, 235, whatever you want. Holyfield made his speech short and simple. I'm glad we're having the fight here in my hometown, he said. I don't want to be the first 1984 Olympian to just fight for the title. I want to win the title. So this fight took place in Atlanta. And Holyfield's a slight favorite in over Kawi, despite only having 11 pro fights. Holyfield's sparring exhibition at Woodruff Park on Monday afternoon was interrupted by Kawi and his entourage. Kawi, who is scheduled to work out in the park on Wednesday afternoon, baited Holyfield by throwing disposable diapers in the ring and setting fire to a Holyfield t-shirt stuffed with newspaper before leaving. Kawi would say, "He's got a lot of confidence. I guess I have to knock it out of him." And here he is with Tim Hallmark for the first time before this fight, and he's got a different techniques that he's been using. And here's Hallmark's or Lou Duva saying, "I wanted to find out if I could put Holyfield through a vigorous physical training program." And Hallmark says here, "We do everything from a heart rate standpoint of the different types of stress. What do his heart and lungs respond to? How fast do his heart and lungs respond and recover? How much stress can he take, and how long can he take that much stress? We did that for 2 days. We try to simulate the same type of stress he goes through in the ring without putting him in the ring. The mechanical aspects are taken care of by other people. We're looking at how his body works with that stress. We'll duplicate things in the ring and make it tougher than it would be in the ring from a cardiovascular standpoint. So going 15 rounds would seem much easier." And Hallmark said George Benton, the boxing trainer, had no problem with it. He says, I think at first there was some concern that I might overlap into what they were doing in the ring as far as training. But once he found out that I was just working on the physical conditioning, he accepted it." And Kawi and Holyfield bout hinges on age and experience. And here's a photo. Here's some predictions from the experts. Angelo Dundee, former trainer of Muhammad Ali and Sugar Ray Leonard. "This is going to be Holyfield's toughest fight," said Dundee. "I don't think Holyfield has the answers as to what to do with Kawi. He's so much shorter than Holyfield, and that's going to work against Holyfield. Kawi is always moving and bending and slipping punches as he comes in. I think Kawi will stop him in a knockout. It will be a great fight." And then Ferdy Pacheco, "I have to favor Holyfield because he's been brought along very well and he's learned his lessons very well. He's very young and his people tell me he's extremely well motivated for this fight." It's the age-old test of the talented, inexperienced fighter against an experienced but rather worn-out fighter. The results reside in the chest cavity of each fighter. Who's got the most heart? Kawi had no amateur career and did not start boxing until he was 25. He has not been involved in any ring wars, has taken no physical beatings, and has never been knocked down. Holyfield hasn't been knocked down either. So here's Kawi's trainer. "I think they thought Dwight was a little over the hill. They thought at this time he would be on the downside. They accepted the fight more than 6 months ago. I think they know that they made a mistake, but they can't get out of it." Cowie comes to fight, said Lou Duva. He's not the guy you have to look for. He's not a cutie. He's not a guy who's going to run and you have to make the fight. He's a guy who comes to fight. And those guys, I guarantee you, Holyfield will take apart. Since Cowie is one of those relentless attackers without much guile or form, he just keeps on coming on, Pacheco said. It's up to Holyfield to use his talent to evade the rush and punish Cowie considerably coming in. And Duva, everybody always says to me, Lou, how could you put a kid in there with 11 fights against a monster like him, Cowie? He was a monster. He was a tough fighter, but I don't know how much he's got left. And Pacheco, I believe the factor that mitigates this fight for Holyfield is that this edition of Cowie is not the one that fought Michael Spinks. And he thinks he's worn out. Holyfield is an excellent defensive fighter. Like Cowie, he does not get hit easily, and he has quicker feet. If Cowie keeps coming in like a tank and Holyfield doesn't have the champion's heart, and you never know that until the fight is played out, then Cowie will win the fight, said Pacheco. He'll just go right over him like veterans do inexperienced fighters. And Cowie says, I can't see this kid coming in and raising hell with me. If he does, that's a good one on me. But I can't see it in my plan and in my future. So he thinks Holyfield's going to run. And Holyfield says, I'm not a great fighter yet, but I'm destined to be. If I win this fight, I think I'll be worthy of being the champion. Holyfield saying he's destined to be a great fighter. And here we have it. Saturday, July 12th, 1986, from the Omni in Atlanta, Georgia, where it did not sell out, but it was at least half full. And you see, one of the judges was Harold Letterman of HBO fame, where Holyfield wins a split decision in an amazing fight. It's actually the last great 15-rounder. If you want to check this fight out, I highly recommend it. It's one of the greatest fights you'll ever see, and people, not a lot of people have seen it because it's before Holyfield's heavyweight days. So this is his first title fight against Dwight Muhammad Cowie, one of the greatest pressure fighters of all time, a veteran, and Holyfield puts on an amazing performance. They both do. I mean, you could easily have scored that fight a draw, but check it out, score it for yourself, and see who you thought won. I thought Holyfield did just enough in the late rounds with an amazing display of cardio and guts, because there were times where Cowie just went off on him to the body and to the head. And Holyfield shows like some really nice boxing here, some fast hands and combination punching. But he was tested, and we would see this type of heart throughout his career, but this is the first time, this is our first glimpse of it. And then Duva is saying after this, what we'd like to do is unify the title, but what we're really directing ourselves towards is Michael Spinks, who is the heavyweight champion at the time. He had just beaten Larry Holmes for the title. It would be a fitting fight. You've got two Olympic fighters, both in their prime. That's what we're looking at now. And his manager Sanders said, We don't have any concrete plans yet, but look for him to fight again in 60 to 90 days. We don't know who or where. It'll take 2 or 3 or 4 weeks to come up with that. We're looking at a possible fight with Spinks, but it'll be a while before we work out the details. Holyfield couldn't fight again quickly after this because he was hospitalized because of severe dehydration and complications after this fight. And they're basically saying they want to go after Spinks because they're the same size. Holyfield says he's ready. I've been wanting to fight Michael Spinks ever since I got out of the Olympics. I'd like to defend my title 2 or 3 times and be the undisputed cruiserweight champion. And then maybe fight the heavyweights. The Olympics really motivated me to go forth and work toward that goal. If they want me to fight this guy again, meaning Kawi, I'll do it. But I feel like Spinks will be next. My job is to just stay in condition, and who I fight is up to the managers. So it was a close fight, and they were thinking about a rematch. And here's the referee talking about it. I couldn't believe how hard they were hitting, and they kept coming back at each other after the flurry of punches. Yeah, and he took away a point from Kawi in the last round for hitting low. Evander just kept hitting and hitting Kawi, said Harold Letterman, who scored the fight 144 to 140 for Holyfield. Dwight just didn't punch enough. Evander was much more effective. Holyfield said, I felt good about the fight. It was a tough fight like I expected. Kawi fought tough. I went out and fought my heart out. I did everything I could to win. And Holyfield's trainer, George Benton, said the plan to keep him, Kawi, moving around and spinning in a circle. He, Holyfield, followed the plan like a soldier. We told him to stay outside and box. He was better off staying out there, circling around. Every time he went backwards, he'd get hit with the right hand. He fought a hell of a fighter, but Holyfield showed he had a hell of a chin. And then we see here, in July 14th, 86, Holyfield hospitalized overnight. Holyfield says, it was all right until I had gone back to the hotel and taken a shower and started to cool down. Then I had this major headache. I called my doctor and he told me to go to the hospital. Holyfield lost 15 pounds, mostly body fluids, during the 15-round fight. Whenever you get severely dehydrated and combine that with severe muscle use and damage, and by damage I don't mean muscle tears or pulls, if you're in a marathon or a boxing match, the muscular damage is in the cells. Yeah. And his kidneys could have shut down. And he's feeling okay afterward. And here we have Holyfield versus Henry Tillman for Holyfield's title. Henry Tillman actually was a decent amateur coming up as well, who famously fought Mike Tyson. And Holyfield to defend his title. And these guys were actually buddies growing up in the amateurs. And Holyfield said, the friendship will have to take a back seat on fight day. When it comes to the ring, I've got a job to do, Holyfield said. I'll do what I have to do in the ring. When I leave, I will love him as I did going in. Tillman agrees. He says he prefers not to fight a friend, but is not about to pass up his second opportunity to win a world championship. Tillman lost a 12-round decision to Smokin' Boot Burt Cooper last June for the NABF title. I've got good things to say about Holyfield, Tillman said. We're professionals now. We don't need the pre-fight hype. We don't need to downgrade each other. I hope we come out as good friends as we go in. And Holyfield said he trained to go 15 rounds. If Henry's prepared, we'll go 15. If not, I'm not going to prolong the fight. So he feels kind of awkward about this, but Tillman can't fight with him. Holyfield is too determined. Tillman is timid. Holyfield is a true warrior. He'll fight anybody. This is Mark Randazzo. And everybody's picking Holyfield to win by knockout. And Tillman won the gold medal at the 201 pounds heavyweight in the 84 Olympics. So he's actually a natural heavyweight moving down to cruiser for this opportunity. And he says it's easy. He says it's not. It's only 4 or 5 pounds. I'm not running in plastics or sitting in a sauna or missing meals. I'm not looking past Evander Holyfield. Right now, Holyfield's in front of me. After this, I'll sit down and figure out whether we move up or stay at cruiser. And Holyfield said, the first time I sparred him was in 1983. I was surprised by him being 201 pounds. I was 178. I figured he'd move up to heavyweight and I'd be a light heavyweight. And then I looked at him on TV and I thought, I might have to fight this guy. He's the last person I want to fight. He's tricky. You can never really expect what will happen when you fight Tillman. So Holyfield knows what he's up against here. He says, the long layoff helped me. The fight against Cowie took a lot out of me, both physically and mentally. I needed the time off to recuperate from that fight. And Tillman is a different style of fighter than Cowie. Cowie was in my chest the whole fight. He brought the fight to me, and Tillman won't do that. Tillman is more of a skilled boxer who prefers not to play the role of the aggressor. Holyfield says he still fights in an amateur style sometimes. I have a 10-year edge on him in experience. I can do a number of different things in the ring. I don't know about him. And he beats Tillman by a knockout. Saturday's victory over Tillman was Holyfield's 14th straight as a professional and his 10th knockout. The champion received $200,000 for the bout, and Tillman, who lost for the second time in 16 pro fights, received $50,000. Holyfield says, in amateurs, you don't have much time. You've only got 3 rounds to get things done. Now I've got time to set things up. I don't have to hurry. As world champion, I can show that boxing's an art, not just two people trying to kill one another. And Holyfield was picture perfect against Tillman. In fact, trainers Lou Duva and George Benton couldn't have drawn up a prettier fight plan, and nor could have Holyfield executed it any better. And he stops him in the 7th round. I figured I could take Henry out early with a straight right hand. He was able to take it. Every time I'd get ready to lose my cool, my corner kept me from getting into a scuffle. And Duva says, Holyfield's a great fighter, but what he does really does well is he listens to instructions. He listens and then executes. And Tillman said, I let him get too much inside. And then I stood inside with him. I allowed him to work combinations. I didn't purposely fight that way. I felt a little flat, and I didn't want to stay on my toes and drain myself too early. I wanted to have something left for later. Holyfield won the title last July from Dwight Muhammad Qawi, a fighter you never have to look for, Holyfield said. That's the kind of fighter all my best fights come against. George told me not to pressure Henry. I let Henry build up some confidence and got him coming forward. Then I hit him with shots to the head and body. I put my jab on him and moved him the way I wanted to move. Holyfield said Holyfield and Tillman sparred as amateurs. I felt at times that he was recovering, but I'd hit him with a lot of body shots and he'd slow down again. Afterward, he told me that he felt too weak to fight at 190. The 24-year-old Holyfield's future is in the heavyweight ranks. Watching him, you can't help but think fighting Mike Tyson is in Holyfield's destiny. Now understand, Holyfield isn't clamoring for a fight with the WBC champion. But when Tyson's name came up after Saturday's bout, Holyfield didn't dodge the subject. He said, I wouldn't have to look for him. He'd be right there. There'd be no way I could miss him. Holyfield isn't going to fight Tyson soon. He doesn't have to fight him right away. Time has a way of making purses larger. In 2 years, the public appetite for a Tyson-Holyfield fight might turn into a hunger. But it wouldn't be the 188.5-pound Holyfield who fought Tillman that would fight Tyson. Holyfield's conditioning coach, Tim Hallmark, said the 6'1" Holyfield could comfortably carry 210 or 215 pounds in a year. And Holyfield said, we'll have to wait and see. I've never weighed that much. I feel I'm more effective when a fighter comes to me. That way I can pick my shots and hit him when he comes in. I would have been able to take Tillman out earlier if he had come in on me. It was a situation where I knew if I could keep hitting him with body shots, he would start to drop his hands and I could take him out. Holyfield wants to fight Tyson, but not immediately, not in the near future, because he's still a cruiserweight, and he wants to fight Carlos De Leon, the other title holder, or Ricky Parkey, or both of them. So he's trying to unify the division and become undisputed champion. This is Ken Sanders as manager. The media, the boxing world, everyone's talking about Evander and Tyson. They want to beef Evander up, make him a heavyweight right now. We're not going to do that. In 2 years, he's going to grow to that weight without any problems. Then, when it's natural, that's fine. Everybody's talking about Tyson, Holyfield said. But I can't think about that. I have to focus on the cruiserweights. The Tyson fight won't come off if I let a cruiserweight slip around and beat me. They also were thinking Michael Spinks because he's not as big. Holyfield said, Spinks isn't as big as most heavyweights. It wouldn't be much for me to be up there in a year. It would be a classic matchup because we've both got good boxing styles. Man, Michael is getting $7 million for that Cooney fight. Everybody has their day, and mine's coming. And Sanders wants him to fight Spinks as well because Spinks is Evander's size. Evander could fight him today, but I don't want Cooney at 230 pounds when Evander would have to beef up to 215. Meantime, Tyson will take care of the other heavyweights. The way he's fighting about every 3 months, he'll have nobody left. Michael Spinks wouldn't fight Tyson for less than $10 million, I believe, and I don't think they're going to get that. But Evander could fight Spinks for $2 million, with Michael getting $5 million. When Evander beats Spinks, then I'd push him to fight someone like Burt Cooper, and then 6 months later, Tyson for $10 million. And then by then the pressure will be on. Tyson undefeated, Evander undefeated. It could be a $20 million fight. This is all a year and a half away. So he ends up fighting Ricky Parkey in a defense of his titles, and he destroys him in 3 rounds. And then he goes to France and beats up Ossie Ocasio over 10 rounds. And here, this is right before the rematch with Cowie. He's tough and hard to hit, Holyfield recently said of Cowie. I didn't want to fight him again. I proved once I could handle him. If you can survive, why go back? But things happen. Like, I don't think Muhammad Ali loved fighting Joe Frazier all the time. Definitely not. So these guys are going to be fighting again. Cowie said Thursday he was finished with idle talk and then threw his mouth directly into idle. The gears shifted easily. Last time, Evander Holyfield swayed the judges with pity-pat style. We were supposed to be fighting, but I think we were playing hopscotch. I don't think he's man enough to stand there and fight me, toe-to-toe. Give this man a pair of Reeboks so he can run away some more. You'll run from me, won't you? And Holyfield said, I didn't run from you last time. You ran, and I promise you you'll do some more running this time. To the hospital on Saturday night. I have very bad intentions. I mean very bad intentions. Come Saturday night, I'll execute them. Holyfield said, it frustrated me some when he was talking about doing the same type of thing before the last fight. And here he was coming into my town, Atlanta, and doing that. But the more I thought about it, I figured he was probably a little worried. I remember waiting for the doctor to examine us before the fight. Cowie glared at me and said, you think you're bad, huh? He kept saying it. I just look at him. It came to me that if he had to keep saying it, he probably already knew the answer. And Cowie famously spent some time in prison. My struggle was far greater than Holyfield's, said Cowie. I came through it and I earned it. And then Holyfield says, fine, but I worked for my title too. It didn't come out of a Cracker Jack box. I fought a lot of years for free. And I was vulnerable to the same things he was when I was growing up. His past just showed that he made mistakes and overcame them. And Cowie is saying here, the hype is over. And I got to go rest, said Cowie, who wanted to go take off. He says, I don't think he's a speed demon. I don't think he's fast. I don't think he punches hard. He punches like a sissy. If I hit him half as much as I hit him last time, it won't go 15 rounds, said Holyfield. I'm willing to bet you won't stand and fight me like a man, Cowie said, glaring at Holyfield. He wants me to stand there and fight. He wants me to stand to fight his fight. If I stood toe to toe, it would be even. But I'd be a fool to play his game. I'll do what it takes to win. And then Cowie says he would like to fight Mike Tyson. And then Duva says, don't worry about it. We're going to use you as a sparring partner when we fight Mike Tyson. And then we have Holyfield versus Cowie in the rematch. December 5th, 1987, where Holyfield just was too big and strong and too good for Cowie at that stage. He just never got going and got dominated. George Benton says after the fight, Evander's stronger, more experienced, smarter. It's showing up everywhere. His punches are bigger. Defensively, Cowie tonight only hit him with 1 or 2 punches. The last time Cowie hit him too much. From last year when we fought this guy, there's twice the difference in Evander. And Holyfield said, that showed me my strength was there. Last year, I hit him 1,000,000 times on top of the head and I didn't drop him. I kind of had him extended more than he wanted to be. Those rights looked like they landed, but they were really glancing off my shoulder. The first time I fought him, I fought from a panic position. I felt like I had to throw a lot of punches to prove myself. This time I knew I had his respect from the get-go. And Cowie is the type of guy who boxes off reactions. I tried to make him think about what I was doing. I felt good. I felt strong. Last time I felt like I had to muscle up and hit him on the chin to stop him. This time my strength was so good I'd hit him on the shoulder or body and know that I hurt him. Dwight said that his legs were not there tonight, that Holyfield is a very good fighter, or a very good champion, and that he was even stronger than Dwight thought he would be, said Rock Newman, who was Cowie's trainer and manager. And here he's talking about fighting Tyson, and this is before he is to fight for the last cruiserweight title. So there were 3 cruiserweight titles available at the time, and here he wants to fight. He's going to be fighting for the last one, but all everybody wants to talk about is Tyson. And Holyfield's saying, I feel good about the Tyson situation. We can set it up this way in advance and still have a chance to fight my fights. I don't have to stay in the closet waiting until Tyson's ready to fight me. People might say, why take a chance and fight anybody? Why not just wait for Tyson? The way I look at it, if I can't beat those guys, I don't deserve to fight Tyson. Right now, I'm 200 pounds. I've got to get down to 195 for DeLeon. But with the conditioning and weightlifting program I'm on, it shouldn't be any problem. Being 203, 205, that's big enough. I'll be just as quick as ever, and I'll be stronger. And he thinks that by beating Tyson, he can make a ton of money. So I can't afford to make any mistakes between now and then, especially with someone like Quick Tillis, who is another guy who's on the list of who he could fight in his heavyweight debut. There was a lot of talk of Holyfield-De Leon match last year, but the two sides never agreed financially. Both fighters will move through the ropes at Caesar's Palace for a guarantee of $300,000 apiece. It will be televised by Showtime. Holyfield will face a challenger who is efficient at slipping and sliding away from punches until fights end. Holyfield says he's crafty, but he's not good under pressure. It's important for me not to give him time to look for spots to deliver his great right hand banger. And Holyfield was named Fighter of the Year in 1987. It's a tremendous honor when you think it could have given the award to Mike Tyson, Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler, Tommy Hearns, guys who have been on top for a while. But when they broke down all the fights of last year, it came down to me and Tyson. And when they analyzed both of us fight for fight, I came out on top. And I don't fight no stiffs, Holyfield says. Even though I'm looking forward to becoming a heavyweight, I realize I'm still in the middle of the growing process. If I maintain the skill and knowledge I have right now as a cruiserweight, I can be champion for as long as I want to be. And then he says, Tyson really impressed me against Tubbs as far as boxing ability. He was able to deliver body shots instead of wild shots he normally delivers. He's starting to get into more of a pattern, and that's good for me. When a boxer is very unorthodox in the ring, you can't figure him out. And here we have Holyfield fighting for the undisputed cruiserweight champion against Carlos Sugar De Leon. And he was able to stop him in 8 rounds. If you want to see prime Holyfield, this is a good example. This is an excellent example of an absolute peak cruiserweight Holyfield taking out a good fighter and dominating him. I highly recommend you check this out. This is another one of his gems that people don't talk about and most people haven't seen or don't remember. So check out Holyfield De Leon to see him at his absolute best. And here's Holyfield. Against a good fighter, you've got to hit him right on the button, and I was hitting him on the head or the forehead. He didn't let me crack him on the chin like I wanted to. And this is from the Atlanta Constitution. And Tyson, who watched from ringside, said it appeared Holyfield delivered his best shots, and De Leon was still standing up, he added. Maybe a dig at Holyfield's punching power there. And then we have Holyfield going to make his heavyweight debut against a journeyman by the name of James Quick Tillis. And De Leon said, there's no question he's going to be a great heavyweight. And Holyfield says here, I'm pretty much ready for anything, but I've got to take things one fight at a time. They're looking at a quick turnaround with Quick Tillis. Whatever's comfortable for me inside the boxing ring, as far as my boxing ability and hand speed are concerned, he said, uh, Tim had me on a good weight program, and I felt good at 202. So here he is. He's done with the cruiserweights, and it's on to making his heavyweight debut. And here's the final picture of Holyfield from this era. The greatest cruiserweight of all time. If you enjoyed this, please let me know or share it around. If you're interested in a part 2 and 3, part 2 would be the Holyfield in the 1990s, which was one of the greatest periods of heavyweight boxing ever. It's the period that got me into boxing in the first place. And Holyfield fought everybody. So the next installment would be the 90s, and then after that the 2000s. But I enjoy doing this. It's a lot of work. So if there's enough, I don't know, if enough people like this kind of thing, and like the detail that I'm going into, and there's enough views, quite frankly, and enough attention or people that care about it, I'll do another part. But I'm going to hang back after this and see if, if anybody's into it. If I get a certain amount, like I have a minimum amount of views in my mind, I'll do a second and third. So if you'd like to see that, just give me a comment or spread it around, and we'll see if we can do part 2 next within, a couple of weeks or a month. Thank you very much.